It's actually incredibly uncomfortable to walk into a room where people are excited to see you. So I should probably quit while I'm ahead while I still have people cheering for me. But thank you so much. You have an incredible chairwoman here leading the state party. She likes to say that I'm tough. I would never say no to her. So keep that in mind as she is calling on you and asking you to help the president and the vice president get reelected. And you've got a great candidate in John James for the Senate. And I hope that when you go out to cast your vote for the president and the vice president, you make sure you check John James as well, because the president and vice president need more allies in Washington, and they need more tough people in Washington. And I watched him walk outside in this cold a few minutes ago. I was bundled up in a coat and shaking. He had no coat and acted like it was nothing. So I think he's certainly shown through his background in the military and everything else what a tough guy he is, and somebody we need in Washington. You know, a lot of people know me as the former White House press secretary, but actually the most important job I have, and one that I am rushing home to fulfill as soon as I wrap up here, is that of being a mom. Thank you. I've got 3 incredible kids, Scarlett, who's 7, Huck, who's 6, and George, who's 4. And yeah, it's pretty crazy at my house. I have a 7, 6, and 4-year-old. But a couple years ago, when Huck was about 4 and a half, I had the opportunity to participate in Bring Your Kid to Work Day at the White House. And I debated at the time, most of the kids that were coming were going to be a good bit older, 7, 8, 9, 10 years old. And I debated whether or not he was going to be old enough to go. And I decided, how many opportunities am I going to get to take my son to Bring Your Kid to Work Day at the White House? So I figured, you know what, we're going to roll the dice and see what happens. You know, you name a kid Huck, you set a certain expectation for him in life, too. He's probably going to be a little bit of a rascal, and he usually lives up to every bit of that. And we got there, and the first part of the day went perfect. He was on great behavior, had his bow tie on, his little jacket, and we were making memories that I'll cherish forever. And I felt like it was just a perfect day. We were coming towards the end of the day, and this was the big moment. All of the kids were going to gather in the Rose Garden, and the president was going to come out, the vice president was going to come out and take a picture with the kids. We had invited members of the press to bring their kids out as well and participate in the photo opportunity with the president and the vice president. So I'd gone into the Oval Office to walk the president through. You go out, you walk down the stairs, you take your picture, you finish. I said, and as a reminder, half of the kids, their parents are reporters, so you might watch what you say. Naturally, he completely ignored me. And as I'm walking him through this, we look over and we see that the bushes in the Rose Garden start to violently shake. And I'm thinking, well, that's odd. The president's noticed this too. And about the time I start to process it, I see this little blonde head pop up, run fully towards the window of the Oval Office, and press his face firmly against the glass. As I'm watching this unfold, the president, taken aback, goes, oh my gosh, the little boy with his face in the window of the Oval Office. I said, yes, sir, that's my son, Huck. He said, well, Sarah, at least he's handsome. Not to be outdone by that moment, about a month later, Huck and my other kids were playing, and I had been doing some work, and I set my phone down on a Saturday morning and went to do something with my daughter, Scarlett. I came back about an hour and a half later, and I thought, oh my gosh, we're at war. I had no idea what else could have constituted the number of calls, text messages, and emails that had come through over the course of that hour. I knew my boss may have sent out a tweet or something, but even that wouldn't have probably pushed this much incoming just towards me. Finally, I find an email, and embedded in it is a tweet. And at some point during that time frame, my son Huck had put a tweet out from my official press secretary account that went to about 4 million people, full of emojis. I don't know if you've looked at your emoji selection in a while, but for a 4.5-year-old, that's a lot of options, we'll say. As I started to get really upset with Huck and getting ready to punish him, I realized that the emojis were planes, trucks, traffic lights, and boats. And it was actually Infrastructure Week, so instead of being upset with him, I was happy that he was on message. I think I was probably one of the few people in the White House that went to work to get a break. And the press never liked it when I joked that there wasn't chaos in the White House, but there was certainly chaos at my house. And if they wanted to participate in getting 3 kids ready for school, they could see what real chaos is like. In all seriousness, if we want to see chaos in the White House, destructive chaos in the White House, then we can let Democrats run our country. If we want to see real chaos, we can allow Democrats to implement higher taxes and bigger government. Thankfully, we have a president and a vice president who have been focused on delivering lower taxes and making government smaller, not bigger. If we want to see real chaos, we'll allow Democrats to eliminate private health insurance and force you onto government-run health care that you don't want. Thankfully, we have a president and a vice president that are standing up and focusing on lowering costs and even letting you keep your doctor. Democrats want to come into your home and they want to take your guns. If we want to see real chaos, we'll allow that to happen. We have a president and a vice president who understand that you have a God-given right enshrined in the Constitution that allows you to protect your family because you can do it better than anybody else. If we want to see chaos in the White House, Democrats will be allowed to continue to force their radical agenda of taxpayer-funded abortion anytime on demand. We have a president and a vice president who are courageously standing for life, who have focused on making sure we have judges that believe in the Constitution and are protecting life at all levels and understand that that's one of the things that makes America special and unique and sets us apart from the rest of the world. If we want to see the most destructive type of chaos, we would allow Democrats to take over the White House and weaken our military. After all, they let ISIS run wild across the Middle East. President Trump and Vice President Pence rebuilt our military, and they crushed the ISIS caliphate, and now their leader is dead, thanks to this administration and the brave men and women of our armed forces. We are beyond grateful to have a president and a vice president who love and appreciate our military. They know that they represent the very best of this country. I had the opportunity when I was serving as the White House press secretary to travel with President Trump on a secret trip to Iraq over Christmas, just about a year ago. It was one of the most remarkable moments of my entire time there, but probably in my life. You see, when everyone was gathering around the Christmas tree and gathering with their families, we were flying in the darkness of night to go and greet hundreds of troops that had never planned on being with their family for Christmas, that were making the ultimate sacrifice so that we could live in the greatest country on the face of the planet. We got there, and one of the stops was for the president to go into the dining hall where several hundred troops had gathered. They thought they were having a special dinner that night for Christmas and would be joined by senior military leadership. They were quite surprised when the commander-in-chief walked into the room, and the room erupted into outrageous applause. It was an incredible moment to watch. As this unfolded, one of the young soldiers yelled to the president, "Sir, I re-enlisted in the military because of you." And the president turned to him and said, "And son, we're here because of you." The president went over and shook his hand and made his way across the room and stopped and met with each of the soldiers at the different tables. And as he did that, that soldier that he had had that encounter with came up to me. And he stopped and he said, "Sarah, I just wanted to tell you thank you. You have a really tough job. I politely corrected him. Notice I said politely. Here was somebody who was putting his life on the line to defend our freedom, to defend our liberty, to defend our country as we know it. And I let him know that what I do is nothing compared to the sacrifice that he makes every day. And I told him that actually you, sir, have a tough job. He silently reached up and took the patch off of his arm. He didn't say a word. He put it into my hand. He reached up. He gave me a huge hug. I held on probably longer than I should have. And he said, "Ma'am, we're in this together." It was a moment that I will cherish for the rest of my life. I was overwhelmed and I was speechless, and I walked away with tears in my eyes, more grateful than ever for the men and women who serve in our armed forces. Like I said, their selfless sacrifice represents the very best of America. In a world full of bad guys, our military, our law enforcement, those are the good guys, sometimes paying the ultimate price. Nobody understands this and appreciates more than our president and our vice president. Our vice president understands in a way that very few do. He understands the sacrifice that military families make. His son Michael is a pilot in the Marine Corps. He didn't have to serve. He could have easily taken a much more comfortable path in life. But he, like all of the members of our military, they choose to serve because they believe in America. They believe in our country. It's often been said that you can't fake good kids. And I get to see that lived out so much in the vice president and the president's families. The Pence family is an American family who loves God unashamedly, loves our country, and is willing to sacrifice for it. They inspire us all. I had the great opportunity in the world to work with the president and the vice president and to watch them selflessly serve and sacrifice because they believe in this country, because they love this country, and they want to preserve what makes it special.